Marjorie Lane was 72, retired, and living outside Knoxville in a house that had started to feel like a bill with walls. She shared it with her 15-year-old great-grandson Wyatt, a quiet kid who'd learned to read the room the way other kids read phones. Marjorie's pension covered the basics only if nothing broke, and spring had a cruel sense of timing. The water heater ground, the roof leaked near the back halfway, and the mailbox kept delivering envelopes stamped with words that sounded polite but meant the same thing: pay up or lose ground. Wyatt never asked for money, which scared her more than begging would have, because it meant he'd already decided what he was allowed to want. A neighbor mentioned that the wealthy Hills did big spring cleanouts, full models, estate clears, new-look projects where solid furniture got dumped because it didn't match the new paint. Marjorie hated the idea of scavenging, but she hated the idea of lights going out even more. She and Wyatt borrowed a small utility trailer, grabbed straps, blankets, and gloves, and drove up on a Saturday with a simple plan: take only what was clearly at the curb, leave anything that looked like it belonged to a porch or a garage, and don't argue with anyone. They moved block by block, slow and careful. Most curbs offered junk, pretending to be useful: wobbly stools, chipped lamps, particle board shelves that would swell the first time it rained. Wyatt cracked jokes to keep her from sinking, but Marjorie could hear the disappointment hiding underneath, because every almost fine was another reminder that the math still didn't work. Then, at the end of a quiet street where the houses sat back behind trimmed trees, they found a pile that didn't belong with the rest. A tall dresser with carved edges, a writing desk, a heavy sideboard, real chairs with weight and clean joinery, a framed mirror wrapped in clothes. The pieces were stacked neatly, not tossed like someone had cleared a room fast, but still couldn't bring themselves to destroy what it cost. The house behind the pile looked shut down: no cars, no lights, no movement in the windows, and a sign in the grass near the sidewalk turned Marjorie's stomach tight: bank owned. She stood there longer than she meant to, because good furniture doesn't land at a curb without a story, and this story felt like it ended badly for someone. Wyatt did the lifting while Marjorie guided, patted corners with old blankets, and tightened straps until nothing shifted. She kept glancing at the dark windows, expecting a door to swing open and a voice to accuse them. But the street stayed silent in a way that felt less peaceful and more final. Back home, the garage looked like a second life had been delivered in pieces. Marjorie told herself this was just resale: clean, photograph, fleeced, sell, enough to fix the roof and buy time. She didn't tell Wyatt how close time really was. That night she started wiping down the tall dresser, checking the frame the way her father once taught her: slow hands, careful eyes, no rushing what you don't understand. She pulled a drawer, then another, testing the slides. That's when she heard it, faint at first, a dull knock from inside the body of a dresser, like something shifting in a sealed space. She froze, listened, then titled the dresser a fraction to see if it was just old wood settling. The sound answered again, heavier and unmistakable. Wyatt joked from the doorway that it was haunted, but Marjorie didn't smile. She ran her fingers along the interior seams, pressed where the grain looked slightly off, and felt a tiny give under the thumb. A soft click. A narrow side panel slid outward by less than an inch, and whatever was hidden inside was heavy enough to make the dresser feel like it was holding its breath. Marjorie held the panel open with one hand and reached into the hidden space with the other, moving slow, like she expected the wood to bite back. Her fingers touched clothes first, then something hard and cold with a shape that didn't belong inside furniture. She eased out, a bundled roll tied with the brittle cord, sat in on the workbench and looked at Wyatt. The kid had stopped joking. His eyes were fixed on the bundle like he understood instinctively that this wasn't extra money. This was trouble. Marjorie untied the cord and peeled back the clothes, layer by layer, until the garage light caught a metallic glint that made her stomach drop. A fitted watch case, a pair of earrings, a pendant, and a small coin pouch heavy enough to thud against the table. Not costume junk, not a thrift store surprise, the kind of items people hide when they don't trust banks, don't trust family, or don't trust time. Wyatt whispered, "We should pack it back." Marjorie wanted to agree because agreeing was easy, but her mind was already racing through consequences. The back-owned sign, the empty house, the silent street, the fact that the furniture had been left out like nobody was coming back. She didn't reach for a pawn shop, she didn't post pictures online, she did the oldest thing she knew. She tried to return it clean. The next morning, they drove back to the street and found the curb bare, the yard stiff and empty, the same bank-owned sign staring like a verdict. Marjorie called a realtor number, got polite walls, privacy rules, no forwarding address, no way to contact previous owners. A neighbor confirmed the hard version of the story: foreclosure, a fast exit, moving trucks late, no goodbye. Marjorie wrote down dates, took photos of the sign, kept every detail because if this turned ugly later, she wanted proof she'd tried. Back home, she made a choice that kept both her conscience and her grandkid safe. Paper trail first, money second. She took the items to a reputable jeweler in town for verification, not sale, and asked for written documentation, descriptions, markings, serial numbers, and an appraisal. Then she filled a found property report through the county process and kept copies in a folder labeled with the address where the furniture had been. She set a strict rule with Wyatt: nobody talks about it at school, nobody flashes anything, nobody treats it like a lottery. They waited the required period, no claim came in, no call, no proof, just silence. Only then did Marjorie sell, and she did it the slow, boring way that doesn't end with sirens, through established channels recommended by the jeweler, with the receipts, tracked payments, and signatures. It wasn't fantasy money, but it was enough to change what next month looked like. She fixed the roof leak before it grew teeth. She replaced the water heater before winter could threaten them again. She paid off the worst notices, stocked the pantry until Wyatt stopped doing grocery mess, and set a chunk aside in savings account in his name. Real savings, not loose cash in a drawer. The relief didn't make her reckless, it made her steady. The furniture itself became the unexpected second win. Cleaning it, restoring it, and selling it taught Wyatt something he'd never been taught: how to build value instead of begging for luck. He sanded chair legs, learned how to spot real joinery, learned the difference between old and worth keeping. Marjorie started listing pieces properly, writing honest descriptions, meeting buyers in daylight, keeping records like a business. A local antique dealer saw her work and offered consistent consignment. By late spring, her garage wasn't a storage space anymore. It was a small restoration shop with a schedule on the wall and tools laid out like purpose. The happiest change wasn't the bills disappearing, it was the way Wyatt changed. His teachers noticed. He was sleeping better, focusing more, talking about plans again. When a summer trade program opened a slot, woodworking and basic restoration, Marjorie paid the fee the same day and watched Wyatt stare at the confirmation email like it was permission to believe in himself. That night, he hugged her tight and said, "I thought we were stuck." Marjorie held him and finally said the truth she'd been swallowing for months. "We were close, but we are not anymore." They never learned who did the bundle, and Marjorie stopped trying to force an ending the world wouldn't give. She had done what she could, clean and careful, and then she had turned the result into something that didn't just save them, it rebuilt them. By the time spring warmed into summer, the house felt secure, the garage felt alive, and Wyatt had a path that wasn't based on fear. Marjorie didn't call it luck. She called it a hidden drawer that opened at the exact moment they refused to quit.